Did Marvel's Thunderbolts just save the MCU? Maybe. It's really complicated. Marvel has had a really big problem ever since Endgame released, and that's for several different reasons. This includes the oversaturation of content, creating shows and movies that have no connection to other Marvel projects, and the biggest problem, poorly written movies that hurt the characters we have spent 15 years building, and all of this combined has led many Marvel fans to find the mega franchise kind of boring and uninteresting. But with the recent release of Marvel's Thunderbolts, we've almost seen a sense of hope and resurgence with Marvel fans. Thunderbolts has managed to fix many of the mistakes that Marvel has made since Endgame. And so in this video, we're going to be taking a look at everything the Thunderbolts did right and how it affects Marvel movies moving forward with upcoming blockbusters like Fantastic Four and Avengers Doomsday. One of my favorite things about Thunderbolts is how connected it feels to the rest of the MCU. Recently, we've been getting so many projects that either have no connection to the rest of the MCU, or they've teased possible connections with end credit scenes, but never really paid off with their teasers. A few good examples of this is a TV show like Moon Knight, or a movie like Shang-Chi. Moon Knight was one of my favorite Marvel projects ever released. Oscar Isaac's performance was incredible. The way he's able to switch his personalities between Mark Spector and Stephen Grant just shows how talented of an actor he is. And the problem is, this show released all the way back in 2022, and there is no sign of Moon Knight showing up in Avengers Doomsday. And so we may have to wait all the way to the end of 2027 for Avengers Secret Wars to finally see Moon Knight return, which just really sucks, and it causes the show to feel so distant from the rest of the MCU. Same with Shang-Chi. It was a really great story with some super compelling heroes and villains, but again, the problem is it just felt so disconnected from everything else. Now obviously there were some callbacks to Iron Man 3 with references to the Mandarin, but everything else feels distant. Even the post-credit scene has him interacting with characters like Captain Marvel and Bruce Banner, relevant MCU characters, and then the post-credit scene proceeds to have nothing to do with their future projects like the Marvels and She-Hulk. There's no mention of Shang-Chi at all. It's almost like they feel like they have to throw in these end credit scenes so it all feels like one connected universe, but then they do nothing in future projects to build on it. Shang-Chi's actor has been announced to be appearing in Avengers Doomsday, so hopefully Marvel is planning something good for his character. But it is just so exhausting to see so many cool characters introduced into the universe and then wait so long to see them return. And that's just one of the reasons why I really like Thunderbolts. It's a movie that feels super connected. We have had Valentina setting up something in the MCU ever since Black Widow's post-credit scene all the way back when it released in 2021. We then saw her again in Black Panther Wakanda Forever and Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and we knew all of her appearances were leading up to something, and we finally got that payoff here in this movie. Just seeing 4 years worth of end credit scenes finally come together to form something is really cool to see. But that's not the only way this movie feels connected. It really feels connected because we got to see a bunch of different characters make their way back to the big screen after years. Ghost's last appearance was in Ant-Man and the Wasp all the way back in 2018. That's a pre-Endgame movie almost 7 years ago. Remember, the only reason Scott Lang was in the quantum realm when Thanos snapped was because he was gathering quantum particles to help Ghost. We even had 3 characters from the Black Widow movie return. Yelena obviously, Red Guardian, and Taskmaster. Now granted, Taskmaster took a bullet between the eyes only after several seconds of being on screen, but nevertheless you have to remember the timeline for when Black Widow takes place. The movie was released in 2021, but it actually takes place in 2016, immediately after the events of Captain America Civil War, when Natasha is on the run from the government. And the timeline for Thunderbolts is kind of strange, but it's believed that it takes place in 2027, meaning there is chronologically 11 years in between appearances for characters like Red Guardian and Taskmaster. So to see these characters return after 11 years is just crazy. Then of course Bucky and John Walker's return really brought everything together to form such a lovable team of new Avengers. And of course we have to talk about that post-credit scene. The Thunderbolts and Sam Wilson both trying to claim the Avengers as theirs is such a surprising and interesting plot point included in this scene. And the fact that Sam Wilson, who in Captain America Brave New World didn't even want to bring the Avengers back like President Ross asked him to, has since filed the copyright for the name is so interesting to me. And then the scene ends with the reveal of the Fantastic Four rocket flying into Earth's atmosphere. This post-credit scene is one of the best ones we've gotten in years. It connected itself to other MCU projects like Brave New World, and still left us with tons of excitement for future projects leading into the Fantastic Four. Thunderbolts did such a good job of fixing this problem, but there's still another overarching problem that was briefly addressed, but is seems like it might be coming back. And that is just the large volume of content that Marvel has put out since Endgame. Marvel fans are burnt out, and it's so hard to keep track of every release, let alone keep up to date with everything. For reference, Marvel's Phase 1 through 3 released 22 total projects, from Iron Man in 2008 to Avengers Endgame in 2019. So you had 11 years to watch 22 movies. Not bad at all, pretty easy to keep up with. Marvel's Phase 4 released an additional 18 projects in the span of only 2 years. This is largely because Marvel started pushing out tons of content on Disney Plus alongside their typical 3 movies per year. Then Phase 5 released another 15 projects that will conclude with the Disney Plus show Ironheart this June. That means in only 5 years, Marvel has managed to put out 33 total Marvel projects, which is 11 more projects in 6 less years than phases 1 through 3. And that's the problem right there. Before Endgame, fans had to go to the theaters 2 to 3 times a year to catch the latest movie. But since the show started too, there's an additional 8 hours or more of content per show that fans have to keep up with. The oversaturation of Marvel content has left both hardcore and casual fans feeling burnt out. It's caused some Marvel fans like myself to just skip some of the TV shows that seem uninteresting to me. Shows like Werewolf by Night, Echo, and Agatha All Along were shows that I didn't even bother to watch because they seemed obscure and too far distant from the rest of the MCU. And then there's shows like She-Hulk, What If, and Miss Marvel that I stopped watching halfway through because I lost interest. Marvel has definitely noticed this problem. And because of it, it cut back on the quantity of content released in 2024, with Deadpool and Wolverine being the only movie released in theaters all year. And I think that was the first step into getting Marvel back on track, but the problem is, it seems like Marvel's rushing back into the content overload with 3 movies releasing back to back to back. We just had Captain America 4 release in February, Thunderbolts in May, and now the Fantastic Four is scheduled for a July release. And don't get me wrong, I loved both Captain America 4 and Thunderbolts. I feel like they've definitely gotten back on track as far as the quality of content goes, but there was a time where we got several stinker movies in a row with Thor Love and Thunder, Quantumania, and The Marvels. But the thing is, after Fantastic Four, there isn't going to be another Marvel movie scheduled until the release of Spider-Man 4, which is a full year later in July of 2026. So it's just crazy to me that they didn't spread out the release of these movies just a little bit more. Thunderbolts could have easily been released at the end of July, and Fantastic Four releasing in December for Christmas would have been a perfect release. That way, when Fantastic Four came out, there would only be 6 months until Spider-Man. But instead, fans are gonna have to wait a full year before the next movie. And that's the thing. There was a ton of hype around the end credit scene of Thunderbolts. And I'm sure there will be even more hype around the Fantastic Four leading into Doomsday. And then, fans will have to wait a year and a half for Doomsday to release. I understand scheduling a movie release is not easy and there's a ton that goes into it, but at the same time, I feel like the scheduling for these movies could have worked just a little bit better. So, did Thunderbolts save the MCU? Not quite. But I believe it has set Marvel on the right path for success. And I also believe it's brought a lot of hype back to the franchise, which is something that we just haven't seen in years. If you guys like this video, make sure to go down and hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you don't want to miss out on future uploads, and leave a comment letting us know what you guys want to see next. Thank you so much for watching.